My mother-in-law showed up at my door with a 3-week-old baby in her arms and said, "This is the bastard your father-in-law left behind. You work with kids. You're going to raise him for me." I was so shocked I couldn't even speak. She literally left the crying infant on my couch and walked out. That was 3 months ago. Today I'm returning him, with a folder full of evidence that will destroy her perfect reputation forever. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was grading my kindergarten students' artwork at the kitchen table of our Seattle townhouse when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. My husband Daniel was already at his tech job downtown, and I had the day off for teacher planning. Through the peephole, I saw Patricia Sterling, my mother-in-law, standing on my porch in her signature Chanel suit, holding what looked like a car seat. I opened the door, confused. "Patricia? What are you?" "Let me in, Emma." Her voice was clipped, businesslike. Not the warm tone she usually used around me. I stepped aside and she walked straight into my living room, setting the car seat down on my cream-colored sofa. That's when I heard it, a soft whimpering sound. My heart stopped. There was a baby in that car seat. A tiny infant, maybe a few weeks old, wrapped in a blue hospital blanket. "Patricia, whose baby is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to face me, her perfectly made-up face showing no emotion whatsoever. "This is the bastard that Robert left before he died. Some secretary he was sleeping with apparently got pregnant. She died in childbirth 2 weeks after his funeral." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Robert, Patricia's husband, Daniel's father, had died just 2 months ago from a sudden heart attack at 58. The funeral had been enormous, hundreds of people celebrating the life of a successful real estate developer and devoted family man. And now Patricia was standing in my living room telling me he'd had a secret child. I don't understand," I stammered. "Where has the baby been? Who's been taking care of him? The hospital had him in their care while they tried to contact next of kin. They finally tracked me down last week through Robert's will." She pulled out her phone, not even looking at the crying baby. "I'm not raising the living proof of my husband's infidelity, Emma. That would be social suicide. Do you have any idea what the country club would say? What our friends would think?" "But he's just a baby," I said, moving toward the car seat. The infant's face was scrunched up, red from crying. "He didn't ask for any of this. Precisely why you're going to take care of him." Patricia's words hit me like a slap. "You work with children. You're a teacher. You know what to do with babies. I've brought diapers, formula, and some clothes." She gestured to a single diaper bag she'd dropped by the door. "That should get you started." "Patricia, I can't just. This is insane. You can't just leave a baby with me. There are legal procedures, adoption agencies, family services, and all of those would involve paperwork that would make this public." She stepped closer to me, her eyes cold. "Robert built the Sterling name over 3 decades. I will not let some dead secretary's bastard destroy everything we worked for. You will take care of him quietly, or I will make your life very difficult, Emma." The threat hung in the air between us. Patricia Sterling wasn't just wealthy, she was connected. She sat on boards, knew judges, had friends in high places. And I was just a kindergarten teacher married to her only son. "Does Daniel know about this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I'll tell him tonight. He'll understand. Family loyalty, Emma. That's what the Sterlings value above all else." She picked up her Hermes bag from my coffee table. "I'll check in next week. Don't call me unless it's an emergency." And just like that, she was gone. Click of her heels on my front steps, the sound of her Mercedes pulling away, and then silence. Except for the baby's crying, which had escalated to full wails. I stood there for what felt like an hour but was probably only a minute, staring at this tiny human being who had just been dumped into my life. His little fists were clenched, his face red with rage and hunger and fear. He had no idea that his father was dead, that his mother was dead, that his grandmother had just abandoned him with a stranger. "It's okay," I whispered, carefully lifting him from the car seat. He was so light, so fragile. "It's okay, little one. I've got you." The baby quieted slightly at the sound of my voice, his dark blue eyes trying to focus on my face. He couldn't have been more than 3 weeks old. His hospital bracelet was still on his tiny wrist, baby boy Sterling in smudged blue ink, along with the date of birth, September 3rd. I carried him to the couch and sat down, cradling him awkwardly. It had been years since I'd held an infant. My students were all 5 and 6 years old. But muscle memory kicked in. I supported his head, held him close, and started to rock gently. "What am I going to do with you?" I murmured. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "His formula is in the bag. 2 ounces every 2 to 3 hours. Don't bother me with questions." I wanted to scream. I wanted to call the police, call Child Protective Services, call someone who could tell me this was illegal and wrong. But I was also terrified. Tricia's threat had been clear. And more than that, as I looked down at this innocent baby, I knew I couldn't just hand him over to the system without understanding what was really going on. The baby, I couldn't keep calling him the baby or baby boy Sterling, started to fuss again. I checked the diaper bag Patricia had left. Inside were exactly 10 diapers, 2 bottles of pre-made formula, 3 onesies, and nothing else. No pacifier, no burp cloths, no extra blankets. The bare minimum. "Okay, little man," I said softly. "Let's get you fed." I warmed a bottle in the microwave, testing the temperature on my wrist the way I vaguely remembered from babysitting as a teenager. The baby latched on immediately, sucking desperately. His tiny hand wrapped around my finger, and I felt something crack open in my chest. This wasn't his fault. None of this was his fault. By the time Daniel came home at 7 that evening, I was exhausted. The baby had gone through 4 diapers, 2 bottles, and had cried for 3 solid hours before finally falling asleep in the portable bassinet I'd frantically ordered from Amazon Prime. "Emma!" Daniel called from the front door. "Why is there a car seat in the living room?" I met him in the hallway, and he immediately saw the exhaustion on my face. "Your mother was here today." "Yeah, she texted me. She said she had to talk to you about something important." He set down his laptop bag. "What's going on?" "Daniel." I took a deep breath. "There's a baby in our guest room." His face went blank. "What?" I told him everything: Patricia's arrival, her revelation about Robert's affair, the baby's mother dying, and her ultimatum that I would raise the child. With every sentence, Daniel's face grew paler. "This is insane," he said when I finished. "My mom can't just, there are laws. You can't just dump a baby on someone." That's what I said. "But she threatened me, Daniel. She said if I didn't cooperate, she'd make our lives difficult." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized from whenever he was stressed. "Let me call her." I listened as he dialed his mother. Conversation was brief and one-sided. Patricia did most of the talking, and I could hear her sharp voice even from across the room. When Daniel hung up, he looked defeated. "She says it's temporary," he said quietly. "Just until she figures out what to do with him. Maybe a few weeks, a month at most. She's looking into private adoption agencies that are discreet." "And you believe her?" "I don't know what to believe." He sank onto the couch. "My dad had a whole other life I didn't know about. He has a son I didn't know about. And now my mom is asking us to just take care of it. He's not in it, Daniel. He's a baby. Your half-brother." That seemed to hit him. His eyes widened. "Oh my God. I have a brother. Had you really not thought about it that way?" "I was just trying to process." He stood up abruptly. "Can I see him?" We walked quietly to the guest room where the baby was sleeping in the bassinet. Daniel stood at the doorway, staring at the tiny infant. In the soft glow of the nightlight, you could see the resemblance. The same dark hair, the same shape to his face. "He looks like my baby pictures," Daniel whispered. "I know. What are we going to do?" I looked at my husband, at the exhaustion and confusion on his face, and felt a surge of anger. Not at him exactly, but at the situation. Patricia for putting us in this position. Robert for his betrayal. At the unfairness of a newborn being treated like an inconvenience. "Right now? We're going to take care of him," I said firmly. "Because nobody else is." The next morning, I woke up to crying at 5:47 a.m. My body ached from sleeping in strange positions, listening for every sound from the guest room. I stumbled out of bed and found the baby. I had started calling him Lucas in my head because he needed a name, screaming in his bassinet. Hey, it's okay," I murmured, picking him up. His diaper was soaked through. I changed him with fumbling fingers, still half asleep, then prepared a bottle. Daniel appeared in the doorway, looking as exhausted as I felt. How many times did he wake up? 4. Maybe 5. I lost count. Jesus. Came closer, watching me feed Lucas. "Did you get any sleep at all?" "A little." I looked up at my husband. "We need to talk about this, Daniel. Really talk about it. Not just accept your mother's orders." "I know. I'm calling out of work today. But we need to figure this out." After Lucas fell back asleep, Daniel and I sat at the kitchen table with coffee and our laptops. "First thing," I said, "we need to see his birth certificate and any legal documents." Patricia said the mother died, but where's the paperwork? Who has legal guardianship right now? Good point. Daniel pulled out his phone. "I'll text my mom and ask for copies." The response came back within minutes. "Everything is with the lawyers. We'll forward when appropriate. Stop asking questions and just take care of the baby." I felt my jaw clench. "She's hiding something." "You don't know that." "Daniel." I turned to face him fully. "Your mother shows up with a 3-week-old baby, no documentation, no explanation beyond dead secretary, and tells us to just deal with it? And you don't think that's suspicious?" He was quiet for a long moment. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to find out the truth. The real truth. Not just what Patricia wants us to know." Over the next 2 weeks, taking care of Lucas consumed my life. I called in sick to work, using my personal days. Constant cycle of feeding, changing, soothing, and trying to sleep in between was exhausting. Daniel helped when he could, but he still had to work, and Patricia's occasional texts were either demands, "Make sure you're using the hypoallergenic formula," or criticisms, "The baby looks thin in that photo. Are you feeding him enough?" But the worst part was the isolation. Patricia had made it clear we weren't to tell anyone about Lucas. "Family matter," she'd said. "Private." So I couldn't call my own mother for advice, couldn't meet up with my teacher friends and their kids, couldn't even post the cute baby photos that were accumulating on my phone. It was like Lucas didn't exist to the outside world. And that terrified me. On the Tuesday of the 3rd week, I had to take Lucas to the pediatrician for his 1-month checkup. I'd found the appointment card in the diaper bag. Apparently Patricia had at least scheduled that much. The doctor's office was in a nice part of downtown Seattle, the kind of place that had expensive art on the walls and a staff that spoke in hushed, respectful tones. "Mrs. Sterling," the nurse called. I hesitated before standing. I wasn't Mrs. Sterling, Patricia was. But I was the one here with the baby, so I followed her back to the examination room. Dr. Karen Walsh was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gentle hands. She examined Lucas thoroughly, commenting on how healthy he looked, how good his weight gain was, how alert he seemed. "You're doing a wonderful job," she said as she measured his head circumference. "First-time mother?" "Oh, I'm not," I stopped. What was I supposed to say? "It's complicated." Dr. Walsh gave me a knowing smile. "Many families are these days. What matters is that this little one is thriving. She made some notes in her chart. I'll need to update his records. Do you have his birth certificate with you? My heart sank. No, I don't. His grandmother has all the paperwork. Ah. The doctor's smile didn't quite reach her eyes now. Well, I'll need at least a copy for our files. Can you have her send it? We need it for insurance purposes and for his vaccinations. Of course. I'll ask her. But as I left the office with Lucas strapped into his car seat, dread settled in my stomach. I had asked Patricia 3 times for the birth certificate. Each time she'd brushed me off. The lawyers have it. It's being processed. Don't worry about it. Why wouldn't she give me a simple birth certificate? That evening, after putting Lucas down for the night, I made a decision. I couldn't just blindly trust Patricia anymore. I needed answers. I opened my laptop and started searching. First, I looked up death records in King County for the past 3 months, filtering for young women. There were surprisingly few, only 7. I read through each one carefully, looking for any connection to Robert Sterling. None of them seemed right. 2 were car accidents, 1 was a suicide, 3 were medical conditions, and 1 was listed as complications from childbirth. I clicked on that last one. Sarah Mitchell, age 24, died September 5th at Seattle General Hospital. The obituary was brief. Beloved daughter taken too soon. Survived by her parents, Linda and George Mitchell. September 5th. 2 days after Lucas was born. I did the math. If Sarah Mitchell died in childbirth on September 5th and Lucas was born on September 3rd, something didn't add up. Women don't usually die 2 days after giving birth unless there were serious complications. Kept digging. I found Sarah Mitchell's Facebook page, which hadn't been taken down yet. Her last post was from August 20th. 1 more month until I meet my little one. Can't wait to be a mommy. There was a photo attached. Sarah in a maternity dress, glowing with happiness, her hand on her pregnant belly. I scrolled through more photos. Her with an older couple, presumably her parents. Her at a coffee shop. Her at a park. And then I found it. A photo from 3 years ago. Sarah Mitchell at what looked like a company holiday party, standing next to a group of people. The caption read, Sterling Development Associates Year-End Party. Best team ever. Sterling Development. Robert Sterling's company. My hands were shaking as I clicked through more of Sarah's photos. There were several from company events, team lunches, office celebrations, a summer barbecue. In one photo from 2 years ago, she was standing next to Robert himself, both of them smiling at the camera. The caption, Learning from the best. Mr. Sterling is teaching me so much about commercial real estate. So Patricia's story about some secretary was at least partially true. Sarah Mitchell had worked for Robert's company. But something still felt wrong. I opened a new search tab and typed, Linda and George Mitchell, Seattle. The results showed an address in Bellevue, a nice suburb about 20 minutes away. There was a phone number listed for George Mitchell. I stared at it for a long time, my finger hovering over my phone. This was crazy. I couldn't just call these people out of the blue. What would I even say? Hi, I'm the woman taking care of your grandson that you don't know exists? But then I thought about Lucas, sleeping peacefully in the next room. He had grandparents. Real, biological grandparents who had just lost their daughter. Did they even know about him? Before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed the number. It rang 4 times. I was about to hang up when a man's voice answered. Hello? Mr. Mitchell? My voice came out higher than normal. My name is Emma Carter. I'm calling about Sarah Mitchell. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Who is this? I took a deep breath. I'm calling about your grandson. Silence. Then, what grandson? Who are you? What kind of sick joke is this? It's not a joke, sir. I have a baby boy here, born September 3rd. His mother's name was Sarah Mitchell, and his father was Robert Sterling. Nobody told you? That's impossible. His voice was shaking now. Sarah died before the baby. They said the baby didn't make it. They said they both. The line went dead. He'd hung up. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, my heart hammering. They said the baby didn't make it. Someone had told Sarah Mitchell's parents that their grandson died. And I was pretty sure I knew who. The next morning, I was feeding Lucas when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw an older couple, the man from the Facebook photos, George Mitchell with his wife Linda beside him. I opened the door slowly. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell? Where is he? Linda Mitchell's voice was rough, like she'd been crying. Where is our grandson? I stepped aside to let them in. Linda's eyes immediately found Lucas in my arms, and she made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. Oh my God. He's real. He's really real. May I? She asked, reaching out with trembling hands. I carefully transferred Lucas to her arms. She held him like he was made of glass, tears streaming down her face. He has Sarah's nose. George, look, he has her nose. George Mitchell stood stiffly in my living room, his face a mixture of joy and fury. Who are you? How do you have our grandson? And why were we told he was dead? I told them everything. The whole story, Patricia showing up, her demands, the threats, everything. With every sentence, George's face grew darker. That woman, he said through clenched teeth. That evil woman. You know Patricia Sterling? I asked. Know her? Linda looked up from Lucas, her expression hardening. She's the one who told us our daughter and grandson both died. She came to our house the day after Sarah passed, brought a death certificate for the baby, said there had been complications and he didn't survive. She even helped us plan a double funeral. My blood ran cold. A death certificate? For a living baby? It must have been fake. George pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer right now. This is kidnapping. This is fraud. This is... Wait. I held up my hand. Before you do that, there's something you need to know. Patricia Sterling is powerful. She has connections, judges, lawyers, politicians. If we go after her without proof, without a solid case, she'll bury us. What are you suggesting? Linda asked, still holding Lucas close. I'm suggesting we build a case first. Get everything documented. And then we destroy her. Over the next week, with the Mitchells' help, I uncovered the full scope of Patricia's deception. Sarah Mitchell hadn't been just some secretary. She'd been a junior partner at Sterling Development, working directly under Robert. They'd had an affair that lasted 2 years. When Sarah got pregnant, she'd been thrilled. She'd written letters, kept a journal, documented everything. And she'd made very specific arrangements for her child. She'd named legal guardians in her will, her parents, Linda and George Mitchell. She'd even set up a trust fund for the baby, funded by child support payments from Robert. All of this was in documents that Patricia had somehow obtained and hidden. Documents that should have gone to the Mitchells. Documents that proved Patricia had lied about everything. The death certificate, the private adoption story, all of it. But the worst discovery came when Linda found Sarah's final letter, written in the hospital just hours before she died from a postpartum hemorrhage. To my baby boy, Sarah had written in shaky handwriting, I'm naming you Lucas James Mitchell. Your grandparents will raise you with so much love. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't stay. Tell them to make sure the Sterlings never take you from them. Tell them I love them and I love you. Lucas. I'd named him Lucas, and his mother had wanted the same name. Linda sobbed when she read it. She knew. She knew something was wrong. She knew Patricia would try something. We have to take this to the police, George said. Now. But I shook my head. Not yet. We need one more thing. We need Patricia to admit it. On record. That's when I came up with the plan. A risky, possibly stupid plan, but it was the only way to make sure Patricia couldn't weasel out of this with her lawyers and connections. I called her. Patricia, we need to talk. About Lucas. Who? The baby. I named him Lucas. Her voice went icy. I told you not to give him a name. He's not your son. I know. That's why you need to come over. We need to discuss his future. Tomorrow 2 p.m. And bring all the legal documents. The Mitchells are asking questions and I need to know what to tell them. There was a long pause. The Mitchells? How do you? Tomorrow, Patricia. 2 p.m. Or I'm going to the police with everything I know. I hung up before she could respond. The next day, I set up my phone to record audio and tucked it into a decorative bowl on the coffee table, lens pointing toward the sofa where Patricia would sit. The Mitchells were hidden in my bedroom with the door cracked, listening. Daniel was at work. I told him I was meeting with Patricia, but not why. He'd probably kill me if he knew what I was about to do. At exactly 2 p.m., Patricia arrived. She was dressed impeccably as always, but I could see tension around her eyes. Where's the baby? She asked, looking around. Napping. We have about 30 minutes. I gestured to the sofa. Sit. We need to talk about Sarah Mitchell. Her face went pale. I don't know what you... Cut the crap, Patricia. I know everything. I know Sarah worked for your husband. I know about their affair. I know she died 2 days after giving birth. And I know you told her parents that Lucas died too. She stared at me for a long moment, and then something shifted in her expression. The mask dropped. What remained was cold, calculated, and utterly without remorse. So you figured it out. Congratulations. She crossed her legs. What do you want? Money? I can pay you to keep quiet. I want the truth. Why did you do it? Patricia laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Why do you think? Robert humiliated me. For 2 years, he carried on with that little tramp right under my nose in my company. Do you know how that felt? How many people knew? How many of our friends were laughing at me behind my back? So you punished her baby? An innocent child. That baby is evidence of my husband's betrayal. Patricia's voice rose. As long as he exists, as long as the Mitchells have him, people will know. They'll whisper. They'll pity me. The great Patricia Sterling, whose husband cheated on her with the help. Sarah was a junior partner, not the help. She was nothing. Patricia stood up, pacing. And her parents are nobodies. They have no claim to the Sterling name. That baby has Sterling blood, and I decide what happens to Sterling blood. Even if it means lying to grieving parents? Forging death certificates? I did what I had to do to protect my family's reputation. Your reputation. Not your family's. Yours. She stopped pacing and turned to me. You have no idea what it's like, Emma. You're a kindergarten teacher married to my mediocre son. You've never had to maintain an image, never had to be perfect for decades. That baby would have destroyed everything I built. So you were just going to make me raise him? And then what? To give him up for adoption once the scandal died down? Eventually. Or? She shrugged. Accidents happen. Babies get sick. Nobody would question it. The room went silent. Even Patricia seemed to realize what she'd just implied. You would have killed him, I whispered. You would have actually. I'm just being practical. But her voice shook slightly. People like you don't understand. When you have real power, real standing in society, you have to make hard choices. That's not a hard choice. That's evil. Call it what you want. She picked up her purse. But you won't do anything about it. Because if you try to expose me, I will ruin Daniel's career. I will ruin your career. I will make sure everyone knows you're a kidnapper who tried to steal the Sterling baby for yourself. My lawyers are better than whatever pathetic legal aid you could afford." She walked toward the door. "Forget this conversation ever happened, Emma. Keep taking care of the baby until I tell you otherwise. And learn to keep your mouth shut." The bedroom door swung open. George Mitchell stepped out, his phone held up, recording. "Say that last part again. The part about having her killed." Patricia froze, her hand on the doorknob. Linda Mitchell emerged next, carrying Lucas. "And while you're at it, explain to me why you told us our grandson was dead. Why you showed us a fake death certificate. Why you stopped us from even being at our daughter's funeral." "You," Patricia's face went from pale to crimson. "You set me up." "We documented everything," I said, standing. "The fake death certificate. Your admission about the affair. Your threat to Daniel and me. And most importantly, your statement about accidents happening to Lucas." Tricia's expensive composure crumbled. "That baby has no legal claim to anything. Robert never acknowledged him. There's no paternity test, no will, nothing that proves—" "Actually," George interrupted, "there is. We had a DNA test done 2 days ago. Lucas is definitively Robert Sterling's biological son, which means he's entitled to a portion of Robert's estate under Washington state law. And you, by hiding his existence and lying about his death, have committed multiple felonies including fraud, falsifying government documents, and custodial interference. Not to mention," Linda added, her voice shaking with rage, "you prevented us from saying goodbye to our daughter properly. You stole our grandson. You were planning to harm him." "I never said I would harm him," Patricia protested. "That was taken out of context." "We have it on video," I said quietly. "All of it. Your whole confession." Patricia looked from me to the Mitchells to the phone still recording on my coffee table. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked frightened. "Daniel will never forgive you for this," she said to me. "Daniel will never forgive you for what you did to his brother." The word brother hung in the air. Patricia's last card, her final attempt at guilt-tripping me, fell flat. "Get out," I said. "The police are on their way. George called them 15 minutes ago. You can't, I'm Daniel's mother. You can't do this to me. Watch me." 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. They listened to the recordings, examined the documents, and placed Patricia Sterling under arrest. She maintained her icy composure right up until they put the handcuffs on. Then she looked at me with pure hatred. "You've destroyed your marriage," she hissed. "Daniel will never forgive you." But I didn't care. 'Cause Linda Mitchell was standing in my living room holding her grandson, her real, living, breathing grandson, and crying tears of joy. 3 months later, the legal dust had settled. Patricia Sterling was facing multiple charges. The fake death certificate alone was enough for serious prison time, but when you added in the rest, custodial interference, fraud, conspiracy, her high-powered lawyers were scrambling. Daniel had been devastated at first. Finding out his mother had done something so monstrous broke something in him. We'd spent hours in therapy working through it. He'd had to confront the fact that his family wasn't what he thought it was, that his father had been unfaithful, that his mother had committed crimes. But he'd also gotten to know Lucas, his baby brother. And watching Daniel hold the tiny infant, seeing the wonder in his eyes, I knew we'd done the right thing. "I filed for divorce," Daniel told me one night as we were washing baby bottles together. "From my mother, essentially. Legally, I've disowned her. I've removed myself from her will, from the Sterling Development Board, everything." "Daniel, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He looked at me. "What she did to that baby, to you, to the Mitchells, I can't be associated with that. I won't be." The Mitchells had gotten full custody of Lucas, of course. But they'd done something unexpected. They'd asked if Daniel and I wanted to be in his life. "He should know his brother," Linda had said. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. So now every week we had Lucas over for a few hours. We'd take him to the park, read him stories, let him nap in his bassinet. The Mitchells trusted us, and we were building something real, a chosen family, messy and complicated but full of love. On what would have been Lucas's 6-month birthday, Linda and George came over for dinner. Lucas was bigger now, starting to smile and coo. He'd just discovered his hands and was fascinated by his fingers. Sarah would have loved this, Linda said softly, watching Lucas grab at Daniel's nose. All of us together. She always wanted Lucas to have a big family. He does, I said. Maybe not the one anyone expected, but it's real. George raised his glass. To Sarah. To Lucas. And to Emma, who risked everything to do the right thing. We clinked glasses, and I felt Daniel's hand squeeze mine under the table. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Daniel was loading the dishwasher, I got a notification on my phone. A news article. Socialite Patricia Sterling sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud and custodial interference. 5 years. It wasn't enough for what she'd done, but it was something. The article detailed how the judge had called her actions unconscionable and a profound betrayal of family trust. I showed the article to Daniel. He read it silently, his face unreadable. You okay? I asked. Yeah. He handed back my phone. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with them. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? He was quiet for a long moment. Maybe someday. But not for her sake. For mine. Because I don't want to carry that anger forever. He pulled me into a hug. But I'll never forget what she did. And I'll never let her near Lucas again. Good. We stood there in our kitchen, holding each other, while the dishwasher hummed its familiar rhythm. Outside, Seattle's rain pattered against the windows. Inside, everything felt clean and new. The next morning, I went back to work. My kindergartners mobbed me with hugs and stories about their 3-month break without their teacher. I'd missed them, their chaos and joy and innocence. During lunch, my principal, Mrs. Chen, called me into her office. Emma, I wanted to thank you for handling your situation with such grace. Word had gotten out, of course. In a city like Seattle, there was no way to keep Patricia Sterling's arrest quiet. The story had been in all the papers. Prominent socialite arrested for hiding her grandson. I just did what anyone would do, I said. No. Mrs. Chen shook her head. Most people would have looked the other way. You put yourself at risk, your marriage, your career, everything, to protect a baby who wasn't even yours. That takes courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt like I'd simply done the obvious right thing. But I accepted the compliment. That weekend, Daniel and I took Lucas to the Seattle Aquarium. He was obsessed with the jellyfish, his eyes wide with wonder as the glowing creatures floated past. Linda and George had come too, and we made a day of it. Lunch at Ivar's, a walk along the waterfront, ice cream despite the cool October weather. This is nice, Daniel said, watching Lucas reach for a seagull that had landed nearby. Normal. Family stuff. Yeah. I leaned against him. It is. As we walked back to the car, Lucas asleep in his stroller, I thought about how much had changed in 3 months. I'd gone from an ordinary kindergarten teacher to someone who'd taken on a powerful family and won. I'd uncovered lies, gathered evidence, and brought a criminal to justice. But more than that, I'd given a baby his real family back. I'd given the Mitchells their grandson. And I'd given Daniel a chance to know his brother. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything. And sometimes it gives you back more than you ever imagined. Tricia Sterling had tried to make me raise her baby as a dirty secret, a hidden shame. Instead, I'd returned him to where he belonged. Not as a burden, not as evidence of scandal, but as a beloved child with a family who wanted him. That night, as Daniel and I got ready for bed, he said something that surprised me. I've been thinking about what my mom said. About us being nobodies. Daniel, No, let me finish. He sat on the edge of the bed. My whole life, I was taught that being a Sterling meant something. That we were better than other people. That reputation and image were what mattered most. But you showed me what really matters. Not money or status or who you know. Just doing what's right. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I sat next to him. Your mom was wrong about a lot of things. But she was especially wrong about you being mediocre. He laughed. I think I needed to hear that. You're brave, Daniel. You stood by me even when it meant going against your mother. You chose your principles over your family name. That's not mediocre. That's extraordinary. We sat together in comfortable silence, and I realized something. Patricia Sterling had been so obsessed with protecting her reputation that she'd destroyed it. She'd been so focused on appearing perfect that she'd revealed herself to be a monster. And in trying to make Lucas disappear, she'd ensured that everyone would know about him. About Robert's betrayal, about her lies, about her willingness to harm her own grandchild. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months after Patricia's sentencing, I got a letter. It was from her, forwarded through her lawyer. I debated throwing it away unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single sheet of prison stationery, covered in Patricia's perfect handwriting. Emma, I will never apologize for trying to protect my family's reputation. I will never admit that what I did was wrong. I did what I thought was necessary. But I will acknowledge that I underestimated you. You were supposed to be easy to control. A simple kindergarten teacher, grateful to marry into the Sterling family, willing to do whatever I asked. Instead, you turned out to be the strongest person in this entire mess. You protected a child who wasn't yours. You fought for people you barely knew. You risked everything for what you believed was right. I don't understand you. I probably never will. But I respect you more than I respect most people I've known. Lucas is lucky to have you in his life. Even if he's not yours, even if the Mitchells have custody, he has you. And maybe that's enough. P.S. I read the letter twice, looking for hidden meanings or manipulations. But it seemed genuine, as close to an apology as Patricia Sterling was probably capable of. I showed it to Daniel. He read it and handed it back. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. Maybe nothing. You could write back. What would I say? He thought about it. Maybe just, you're right. Lucas is lucky. And he always will be. So I did. I wrote a brief response, dropped it in the mail, and didn't think about Patricia Sterling again. 'Cause I had better things to focus on. Like watching Lucas take his first steps, with George cheering and Linda crying happy tears. Like teaching my kindergartners about family and having a much broader definition than I used to. Like building a life with Daniel that was honest and real, not based on image or status or Sterling family bullshit. 1 year after that terrible Tuesday when Patricia showed up at my door, Linda and George threw a birthday party for Lucas. Our living room was full of balloons, a smash cake, and way too many presents. Lucas, now a sturdy 1-year-old with Robert's dark hair and Sarah's nose, was delighted by all the attention. Daniel and I had given him a stuffed jellyfish from the aquarium, his favorite. When Lucas squeezed it and it lit up, his face broke into the biggest smile. He loves it, Linda said, taking 1,000 photos. Of course he does, George added. Emma and Daniel know what he likes. It was such a simple statement, but it meant everything. We weren't Lucas's parents, but we were his family. We knew his favorite foods, mashed bananas and sweet potato, his favorite songs, anything by Raffi, the way he liked to be held when he was sleepy, facing out so he could see everything. We'd earned our place in his life not through blood or legal documents, but through showing up. Through caring. Through love. As the party wound down and Lucas started to get cranky, Linda pulled me aside. I want to show you something. She pulled up a photo on her phone, Sarah, heavily pregnant, smiling at the camera. This was taken 2 weeks before she died. Look at what she wrote. The caption read, "I hope my little Lucas grows up surrounded by people who love him for who he is, not what he represents. I hope he has a big, messy, complicated family full of people who show up. That's all any kid really needs." My eyes filled with tears. She got her wish. "Because of you," Linda said firmly. "You made this possible, Emma. You gave us our grandson back. You gave Sarah's dream of family a chance to come true." We hugged, both of us crying now, while Lucas toddle-crawled around the living room, blissfully unaware of the love and sacrifice that had gone into protecting him. Later, as Daniel and I were cleaning up streamers and wrapping paper, he said, "Do you ever regret it? Taking on my mother? All the chaos that came with it?" I looked at the photo Linda had sent me, all of us together, Lucas in the center, everyone smiling. Chosen family, weird and wonderful. "Not for a second," I said. "Not for a single second." 'Cause Patricia Sterling had been wrong about so much. She'd been wrong about reputation mattering more than people. She'd been wrong about image being more important than truth. And she'd been especially wrong about me. I wasn't just some simple kindergarten teacher she could push around. I was someone who would fight for what was right, no matter the cost. I was someone who wouldn't let an innocent baby be erased to protect a lie. And in the end, that made all the difference. 3 years later, Lucas started kindergarten. In my class, on the first day, he ran up to me and hugged my legs. "Miss Emma, you're my teacher." "I am," I said, ruffling his hair. "But you have to call me Miss Carter here, okay? Just like the other kids." "Okay, Miss Carter." He ran off to explore the classroom, completely at ease. Linda and George stood in the doorway, watching. "Is this going to be weird?" Linda asked. "Having him in your class?" "Probably," I admitted. "But I wouldn't have it any other way. And it was weird sometimes. When Lucas would call me Miss Carter in class, and then Emma when we had dinner at the Mitchell's house on Sundays. When I had to grade his artwork alongside the other students while knowing I'd been there when he first learned to hold a crayon. When parent-teacher conferences meant sitting across from Linda and George and discussing their grandson while maintaining professional boundaries. But it was also beautiful. 'Cause I got to watch Lucas grow up. I got to be part of his story. And every time I looked at him, healthy, happy, surrounded by people who loved him, I remembered that terrible day when Patricia tried to make him disappear. She'd failed. Love had won. Truth had won. Family, real family, chosen family had won. And Lucas, the baby nobody was supposed to know existed, was thriving. That's all that mattered. That's all that ever mattered. The end.